Let's go ahead and wrap up and go over some of the things we discussed during these tutorials. And Bob D. Blob is going to help me out here. Well, some of the things we discussed were animation principles such as squash and stretch. And of course, squash is when a character hits a wall or maybe comes down from a long jump and his body will squash. And then stretch is the opposite, when the character is about to jump into the air or is initiating some motion that has a lot of momentum, so the character's body stretches. Anticipation is when a character performs some minute movement before doing something major, such as a run or getting out of a chair, where the character will lean back in the chair to give his body the inertia it needs to get out of the chair. We also discussed keyframing techniques, which deal with these little dots up here. Each one of these circles represents a frame. When it's blank like this, there's nothing in it, and when it's filled, we know that there's some kind of artwork in it. We also discussed keyframing, which is from here to here, where the object is in one position or location on one keyframe and in another position or location on another. We discussed frame-by-frame animation, which is kind of like Walt Disney animation, and you have maybe a new picture in each frame. So if you were doing traditional animation, you'd probably have 24 different drawings per second of animation. Then we discussed tweens. And tweens are when Flash will automatically interpolate the position of an object from one position to another, indicated here in our timeline by this blue tint. So the character is here in one keyframe, and then the tween occurs, and then Flash will put the character on another location at the next keyframe. We also discussed swapping symbols for animation. So if you have a character whose hand is open, you could swap it out with a symbol where the character's hand is now closed. And then because of the quick motion, it looks like the character has closed his hand. We also discussed movie clips briefly. And movie clips are animated symbols that you can only watch when you go to Control, Test Movie, or you choose to publish your movie. And that will give you the movie clip. A movie clip basically is a self-contained symbol that has an animation in it. We talked about preparation for animation, and we talked about animatics, storyboarding, directing, camera angles, and all other things such as studying other films and the stuff that you have to do to prepare for your animation. We also discussed the fact that storyboarding is actually a luxury. If you have the time to do storyboards, then by all means go all out. There are even full color storyboards, but of course you'd have to have a huge production budget for that. We talked about camera angles such as medium shots, close-ups, extreme close-ups, and so on, and how they can impact the animation. We talked about lip syncing and voiceovers, which is quite fun. So don't forget, when you're doing lip syncs and voiceovers, you have to become the character. So I don't really have a voice for Bob the Blob, and I was wondering what he'd sound like, and I would challenge you to try to do the same as well. Look at the character and study him and figure out how he'd sound. And that's the fun of voiceovers. Lip syncing is when you take mouth shapes and then you sync them to each different syllable as the character speaks. We talked about puppet animation with our really cool God Lizard attack little exercise. And puppet animation is when you take clip art and you cut it up and you animate them so you get this really cool puppet effect. We dealt with some special effects too, and special effects are very cool, from explosions to slow motion to underwater caustics. You can come up with almost anything you can put your mind to, as long as you think it through first. Well, on behalf of Bob the Blob, myself, and VTC, I hope you learned a lot, and we'll see you later.